What's up, guys? Went to the knife store today, and it was for a different reason, not really to buy knives this time. Um, anyway, not going to talk about that. Uh, Brought home four different knives to try. Only bought two of these knives. I didn't really buy them. I had trade in, so I didn't really buy anything. But I got to take home two knives that I wanted to evaluate, and if I like them, I guess I can just buy them, pay for them, or bring them back when I'm done. But I get to take them home and evaluate them, test them, make a video, and then bring them back or either buy them. The two I bought were Emerson's, believe it or not. I've long said I hated Emerson's, and I'm not really sure that view has changed at all. I will say that I've handled a lot of Emerson's. The knife store, you can go back in the video, has tons of them. I've handled pretty much all of them, and they all pretty much suck by production knife standards. And they suck for $30 knives, much less $150, nearly $200 knives. They suck. When you take them apart and clean them and put them back together, they don't suck so hard, but they're definitely not worth what they go for, in my opinion. The steels ran way too soft. Everything is not finished well at all. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how they're so sought after, if that makes sense. I have no clue what people see in them, but I'm going to try. I'm going to give it a good shot and see if I can find out what everybody likes about these things. But anyway, I got a Mini Commander, and as you can see how smooth it is. Well, you can't really see anything. You can't feel my thumb, but it's fairly smooth. I can tell you that it is light years better than what it was out of the box. This thing was literally the roughest knife I have ever felt, period. And that's from the $1 range all the way to the Henders. This is the roughest knife I've ever felt in any price range of anything. I'm serious, it's the roughest knife ever. And I've touched a lot of knives. Blade Show, knife store, I've touched a lot of knives. It's the roughest thing I've ever felt. It literally felt like I was going over rocks. I don't know what it is, but it took a whole lot of force to get the blade out. It actually hurt my thumb to push the blade out using the thumb stud or the thumb disc. And I have no clue what they do to make it that rough. I actually want to know how they get the action to be that rough, because I would think I could use washers made out of concrete and put it on a textured finish like this TI for the inside liners, and it would be smoother than what this was from the factory. Anyway, I took it completely apart and wiped all the crap off, which there wasn't that much crap on there to begin with. It was strange, but the Nylotron washers just looked like pieces of ABS plastic stamped out. They look cheap. They look super cheap. But anyway, I just wiped the little bit of gunk that was on there off. Lubed it with some fluid film, which is my favorite lube by far. And now it's rock solid in every direction. Rock solid and really smooth. It's every bit as smooth as a Spyderco, which is surprising. On both of my samples, the lockup is really early, which is the only way I would have bought it. There's no possible way I would buy an Emerson with late lockup. As you can see, that one's pretty early, and this Journeyman is mega early, but it still does lock up. I'll show you the Journeyman in a second. But yeah, I like the general shape of this knife. It's comfortable, it locks up solid, and it's kind of smooth now. Honestly, if these knives were cheaper, say $80, I think this would be the ultimate just beat the crap out of knife. It would be fun to use. Also, both of these are V-ground. I didn't know if I said that or mentioned that, or if that's even different. I don't know. They all could be V-ground, these two models. They're V-ground, but it's still a chisel edge. So you have the chisel edge, which is a really nice edge, nice and even, but it is V ground, so I could actually put a V edge on here if I wanted to, and it would perform just like any other knife. And I may do that. I may test it with a chisel edge, then put a V edge on it and test it that way. But I'm going to kill a lot of the steel. I'm going to shorten the blade a lot if I put a V edge on this thing. So I may not do that. Anyway, that's the Mini Commander. It's kind of growing on me. It's a nice, comfortable knife with good lockup. The Journeyman is a big knife, really big knife, huge handle. Huge handle. I mean, I don't have super small hands either. I mean, I'm not massive by any means, but I don't have super tiny hands. It is just a big handle. Big blade too, but it's not nearly as long as the handle, as you can see. This one was smooth from the factory. It's definitely a lot grittier than that is, so I'm going to take this apart and clean it as well. But this was smooth from the factory. Go ahead and give you a little close-up. There you go, Emerson Journeyman. I have the nice stonewash and the satin flats. This is V-ground as well with a chisel edge. Let me know if that is status quo for Emerson's. I'm pretty sure they are mostly chisel ground with a chisel edge. Wasn't expecting to see these two V-ground. Nice G10. The G10 with Emerson's varies wildly. You have this rough stuff, and then you have this really fine stuff that's still rough. It's really weird. They have some weird G10, but fit and finish is just terrible. It's just terrible. It's honestly laughable. But I'm going to give it a shot. I always knock them because, well, people think I've knocked them without actually handling them. I've handled a bunch of Emersons. I've just never used them. So I'm going to give it a shot. And the lock up on that one again. Super early. Not sticky, thank God. Really doesn't have a chance to stick yet, though. I like this knife. I actually do like it. I wish they ran their steel harder, like 55, 57. 154 cm at 55 to 57 is going to hold its edge terribly. Not even as good as Cold Steel's AUS 8 or Spyderco's 8CR13 MOV. It's gonna be bottom of the barrel as far as edge retention. But that's not everything. It is a classy looking knife. I like the look. And it may just be a good knife just to beat the crap out of. Like I said, it may be fun. Anyway, next up I have the Benchmade Contigo. I was really curious to get this knife, handle it, and see what it's all about. It's a huge knife. Put up against, if I could zoom out, put up against the Emerson, literally just as big. It's a big knife. Black G10, which is super duper aggressive. You have this nice aggressive checkering and this milling right here. Long blade, really long blade. I wish they would have added a choil so you could choke up on it. That would have been really nice, but they didn't. This is why I wanted to test this knife. CPM M4, never tested Benchmade's M4. I'm going to do a review on all these knives as well, so stay tuned for that. Deep carry pocket clip, axis lock. It is fairly smooth. It's really smooth. It just doesn't swing freely. But it's a nice big brute of a folder, but it's also delicate and classy, kind of, as well. It is going to come in a satin version, but it's going to be clear coated with Duracoat, I think, so it's going to keep it from corroding. I wish I could get that, but he did not yet have that model, so get it in the future. Anyway, like I said, I didn't buy this. It's just on loan for testing and evaluation. T&E. Next up, something you may recognize and notice one is missing. I traded for these. Traded my OD green blurs for the S30V model. People talk about Spyderco's having good edges. Spyderco's, in my experience, sometimes they come sharp, sometimes they come really dull, but most of the time they have some really severely out of whack edges. The angle can vary as much as 10 degrees from from the back of the blade to the front, and you can get a whole lot of weird things in a Spyderco edge. Kershaw does their edges right, in my experience. Look at this edge. This is probably the most perfect production edge I've ever seen. And both of these that I got are like this. I estimate that's probably 30 degrees inclusive, maybe just a tad under, actually. And look how clean it is from the start all the way to the tip. And this is a rarity. You flip it to the other side, and it's just as clean and just as pretty. So that's pretty surprising. Something I did notice about this, the 14C28N version of the blur is hollow ground, and I noticed that this blade felt a little different. This, if I put my straight edge up against it, is actually flat ground, as you can see. So you have a swedge, then your flat, and then your grind. You can see flat grind. So that's a pretty neat observation. Did not know that the S30V one was a flat grind. It makes sense because S30V is more laborious to grind on. Maybe it's rough on their wheels. It's more wear resistant, so a flat grind is actually easier to do than a hollow grind. So it makes sense. And I like flat grind knives, but it does leave the edge just a hair thicker, actually a lot thicker than the 14C28N blur. So I'm curious to see how that plays out in cutting. I'm going to get the 14C version, do a cut test on that, and then also do a cut test on this as well, see how it compares. Not just edge retention, but ease of cutting. I noticed the knife is actually heavier. There's a lot more steel left in this blade, so it's actually very front heavy. So that's just an observation. Anyway, like the title says, it's just rambling about some new things. Not in the best of moods, so I figured I'd make a video and try and ease my mind a little bit. So thanks for watching, guys, and let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.